I'm Dr. Pete Economou, the East Coast psychologist.
And I'm Dr. Nikki Rubin, the West Coast psychologist.
And this is When East
Meets West.
Well, we've been busy.
We have. Everyone's like, why have there not been any? I've been getting questions. No 2024 episodes. I'm like, oh, yeah, no 2024
And so
episodes.
we'll let the listeners into a little secret that sometimes you and I will record multiple episodes on a day. And so here we are in May. We'll say that. We don't know when this is going to actually air, but
Yeah. That's true. It's
nothing
May
in 2024 yet.
It could be the future. Someone's listening to this.
Oh, that's like, what is that? Some like universal stuff. What is that? What is that called when there's like the multiple universes in like the same place?
Oh, the multiverse? The multiverse?
Yeah.
Except I'm more, well, sure. I'm more meaning like, it's so grandiose. I'm like, in 10 years when someone's listening to this episode.
Yeah. Well, I was seeing this thing today that was like in the 1980s, nobody was like Ubering food, saying, hey, friend request me.
No. Just listen to cassettes and
cassettes. I
playing
remember
with
like
my Teddy Ruxpin, you know? That's what I was
I remember just sitting there like listening, waiting for the song to come on that you just hit record.
Yeah, totally. So important. So see you guys, this is what we've been missing. We've been busy. We've been doing things like, talking about the 80s. No, but we have, and that's, we wanted to talk about that today because obviously we haven't recorded in a while, and it's because a lot of stuff has been going on.
So what's been going on, Nikki?
For Pete? Well, just stuff, a lot of things, and it's hard to fit things in.
All right, I'm gonna PR you. So you've just been super busy with your practice. Obviously, your practice is just like booming, and you've also have this wonderful product where you've been helping other therapists kind of build a practice.
Yep.
And I know I'm missing there's another.
No, I think that's it. No, right? I was at the complete private practice toolkit. Yep.
There it is. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
then all
like
this, all the continuing education things that you do, and a lot of stuff. Yeah. So there's a lot of. I was telling Lee the other day because Lee actually.
Tell the listeners who Lee is.
Oh, so Lee
one of your best friends.
My best friend. So we've been friends since we're like 3 years old and grew up together. Lee also like was a producer in TV. She worked on the Oprah show for many, many years, and so she's going to be helping us, in the background with When East Meets West potentially. And so I was talking to her about your role with Simple Practice, and we had Howard on and season 2 or 3. What season was that? Oh, 2.
I think it was
that was season 2. Yeah,
I know.
God, where does time go?
I know.
Yeah, but I was saying how you are like the face of Simple Practice, and she had known that because she knew Simple Practice from a project that she worked on.
Thanks for the shout out. Thanks for the shout out. Well, okay, yes. So I've been busy, and then Pete, tell everybody you've also been very busy doing like 9,000 things at Rutgers with your practice, like.
Yeah, I just have a few full-time jobs, but that's as high performers is what we do. But I feel that's where mindfulness and Zen comes in, feeling really balanced. And so I've just been doing the academic stuff, some research, teaching, all that great stuff, training in the practice at the various sites with sports psychology, and then just living life. Life is full, and it's also quick. You just don't know what you got until this moment. So it's been great, actually. I've missed you though.
I've missed you too, but there's a thought that came into my head I want to circle back to, but I will say, and Pete and I did just get to see each other. I was in New York, and we did get to see each other, which was always delightful. So
delightful.
That was delightful.
That could have been a long night if my frontal lobe didn't kick in.
It was better that we ended the night early. So what I was just kind of chuckling to myself as we're talking about things that we've been busy with is I was thinking about how, especially like in our culture, if listeners are not living in the United States, busyness, I would say in American culture is kind of a thing. Like it can kind of be a thing, like where people sometimes maybe even like to brag about how busy they are. And I was just wondering, I was having like almost like a social anxiety thought, like, are people thinking that I'm bragging about how busy? So, and I think that there's something to be aware of there because busyness we all get busy, but busyness can become a way to either like elevate oneself, a way to avoid things.
For sure.
And I think that's something to be mindful of. And I'll say personally, I don't like being super busy because as I always say, like I'm very lazy on the inside.
You actually don't.
Yeah, I really don't. And it happens for all of us. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I love that you brought that up because I think because of my Zen practice where I'm like, I'm nothing, because right, that's the Zen thing that says like, we're all more alike than different. And so I'm very mindful of never complaining about being busy. So yes, by no means is this like, hey, listeners, help us because we want
so busy. We're so busy.
No, it's just more like, there's only
stuff's happening.
Stuff's happening. There's only a certain amount of hours a day. I think the other thing that I'm mindful as you're saying that is like one of the providers in my practice, they've had 2 weddings in the last like 3 weeks and has 4 more coming up in the summer. So there's all these like generational sort of things that happen, like or cohort effects, right? Like
yes.
And so I think you and I are in that cohort of like professional blowing upness.
Yes.
Where it's that's I think we're past like all the other things that happen, like
early career, as they say.
We're no longer early career.
Well.
We're not.
I know. It's nice. It's nice.
We shifted to mid-career.
We should, yes. But it's interesting because the early career for anybody is also very, like, I would say in some ways I'm less busy now. Well, not in some way. I actually am less busy. Graduate school was like, a hell on earth. So, that's like a next level busy.
I love that you just said that because we just had graduation this week. And there's a lot of feelings in this current moment around that. Which will be for other episodes once you allow me to. But anyway, but there was this cohort of students that were so excited to see me because they hadn't seen me in a while because I taught them the CBT course their first year. So first semester, first year. And Molly came up and Molly said, a lot of them came up. There was, I think, 18 in that class. And Molly came up and she said, you said something that first class that stuck with me till today. She goes, you said grad school is traumatic. Buckle down because you're going to carry it with you, but just stay healthy. Yeah. And I did say that.
Because it's also facts. Facts, and I think like, look, so if we circle back to like the concept of busyness, which we're talking about today, it's like, I guess we're saying like busyness is going to show up like in every stage of life. There's like different versions, right? Yeah. And again, like, I think what we want to be mindful of is like, how are we interacting with it? So it's like, if you're listening, like you might ask yourself, like, how do I interact with busyness? Like, do I just like accidentally slide into it? Which personally, that's something that happens to me. It's like, I'm not being that aware. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have too many things on my plate too. I've overscheduled myself. Right. Or is it like, is busyness something that you strive for and you're, you feel better if you're super busy, or you want to tell people that you're super busy, right? Like, I think it's just getting curious around like, what's the relationship with busyness while also not judging it as good or bad. It's like, we're all going to get busy sometimes like that, which I guess that now that I'm saying that is kind of have another meaning. It's like a little, that, people are going to get busy in all kinds of ways. So,
And one's not better than the next.
No.
And so I think what I also heard you say, there was like intention, if I'm telling someone I'm busy, what's my intention of telling them?
Yes.
And so that's what we do from the Eastern perspective is, always aware of what my intention is behind a behavior. That's we've talked a lot about contextual behaviorism. So sometimes I've noticed in my own development that there was the time, especially during grad school, where it was like, I'm so busy. Like,
totally.
Cool,
Yep. My calendar's like packed. I'm just like TAing for 5 classes and, I'm doing my practicum. I know. It's so sad. So that can come, because it's, again, and I think a lot of that, speaking of context, as I was mentioning before, I do, and I'm curious, what the relationship is in other countries or cultures, but it is very American. That's a very, it's like, has to do with like, the over attachment to productivity,
100%.
Like that. So it's like, that becomes like a badge of honor. And, there is, I've seen, obviously since the pandemic in the last couple of years, I've definitely read some articles where there is a transition, especially with like Gen Z, where they're sort of, not trying to be as busy, which I really appreciate,
Totally.
like I've read that they're going like, whatever, all the like, quote unquote, quiet quit, whatever. I don't know, all the I'm
Oh,
not on social media, guys. So I don't know. The quiet quitting, is that what they call it? I don't know. What's it? Something
I don't
like
even
that?
know.
Okay, okay, good.
But
I
you
don't
will.
feel
There's some
bad.
very funny TikToks where they're like showing workers and all the like millennials versus Gen Z, Gen X,
Okay, okay. And
and
who's like,
yeah, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm sick, but I'm coming in," and like, you know, the Gen Z is like, "I'm sick, I'll see you next week," you know, like,
right, right.
I'm gonna
Which,
take
like,
care of myself. You've been making me work
yeah,
too hard. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But I was recently running and facilitating a workshop for a large Silicon Valley company, and they were like, one of the people in there asked, "Well, how do I manage boundaries if the late emails get rewarded?"
Mm,
And it was, you know, it's brilliant because it's a beautiful dialectic in that, you know, we're living in this world where you are rewarded by answering an email at 10 o'clock at
yes,
night,
yes.
but also that it does impact your health and well-being.
Totally. Totally. So it's, the question then becomes like, how do you, again, I'm going to keep saying it this way, which is, by the way, for listeners, what we're practicing from a mindful perspective is like, how do you want to interact with what shows up?
Yeah.
Right. So all we have
Yes.
agency over is our own behavior. That's it. So
Yeah.
if what's showing up is someone's sending you an email at 10 p.m. and you're like, well, yeah, the boss is really going to like it if I respond, though it's ruining my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you have a choice. Like I
That's
can't
right.
tell you what the workable choices in that moment. And maybe it's not the same every time. Maybe sometimes you do respond at 10 and maybe other days you're like,
Yes.
no, I don't do that.
Right.
So, again, it's like, I think it's just important to be paying attention to
Yeah.
what is workable with regards to busyness moment to moment. Because something else that was coming into my mind just now is I was thinking about behavioral activation with depression.
Yeah.
So, if listeners aren't familiar, one of the first lines of treatment when somebody is in a depressive episode is we start what's called behavioral activation, which I tell patients is just a fancy term for just doing things.
Totally. Like Nike said and earned
yeah,
millions.
exactly.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. So, it just means start to activate, start to do things, and it could be small things. And so what do they find? And this is like one of the most well-researched things, like the more you start to do things, it starts to regulate mood. So
That's right.
busyness can be helpful too. It's not,
For sure.
or like for my patients with anxiety, a lot of times people say like, I'm better when I'm busy because there's not like the space for my mind to be chattering at me. And I'm like, totally.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of you and I pre-recording talked about hypomania, and I've always joked. So for listeners, like hypomania is a term that we use psychologically, which represents my baseline functioning. Which
well, it's not just a term; it's also it is a mood state. It is also a mood state. Yeah.
And so that
which
is.
we explain what it is to the technical
probably
term
not as well as you.
No, it's good to practice, Pete. It's good to.
I'm happy
to practice.
Yeah,
it's good to practice.
So I'm knowingly with intention going to attempt this, knowing that Nikki will absolutely have a better definition at the end. So the way hypo is the prefix within just for like less than. Mania is the state that is like usually hospitalizable. That's what I tell students when we're talking about psychopathology. So if people have heard of like manic. So if someone's manic, they are acting irrationally, really high level energy, kind of disorganized, sometimes incoherent. Hypomania is just like a high level functioning, maybe even a little disconnect from reality, like intermittent. Go ahead.
I think that was a fabulous start, just to be clear.
Start.
So yes, and mania. So it's the opposite of depression. It's a very elevated mood state, right?
Yes.
And it's the most extreme. So people experience euphoria. They can also be agitated. Like the examples of things that happen is someone might not need any sleep for a few days. They might engage in like intense impulsive behavior, like driving 100 miles an hour, spending like $20,000 on a credit card, something like that. Hypomania is less intense than that. Like it might be, I think the definition for a manic episode, I think is 7 days. And I believe hypomania is 4, though I'm not sure if they've changed it with the new DSM. I don't know. Same. So hypomania is elevated, though it's not euphoric. It's probably more just like energized and getting things done. Yeah. And by the way, this is why a lot of people sometimes struggle. Folks that are on the bipolar disorder spectrum can struggle to want to maintain their medication because mania and hypomania often feels really pleasurable and can be very helpful in some ways. So Pete always jokes that
That's my baseline.
Yeah, it's his baseline. It's just not mine.
No. So that's our beautiful yin yang, where Nikki's baseline is on the couch.
Chill. Yeah, that's right.
And mine is like getting 15 things done before 9:30 a.m.
Yes.
I'm a morning person. But anyway, so we joke with that. But I think, and what I'll say is most high performers probably have a baseline kind of close to what we would call hypomania.
They're more energized. They're more active.
Energized. Yeah, we are. And not to say you're a high performer as well. So not to say that I'm
okay with my low base. I don't know. I like that about myself. I'm like, I don't. Yeah, no, I'm like people that are like, I don't know what's coming to my mind is like LeBron James. I'm like, I mean, that guy does like a lot of training. Like and a lot of like whatever, he's like does the school in Ohio, he does all kinds of stuff. I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, I am tired.
Well, in your defense, they also have a lot of people that they can hire to like
that's fair,
run those things. So
but
yes, I think that's the way that I conceptualize my busyness, is that it's really about like sort of my baseline functioning, sort of recovering perfectionism. Because
that's a nice way of saying it. Recovering. I know. Mine is. It's always there. It'll always be there.
It'll always be there. Just work with it. And that's you said that a lot today. Like a lot of what we do is just how we respond to what's in front of us. And so I've been responding pretty well to what's in front of my busyness. I will. I've been getting with my teacher. So my Zen teacher. At least weekly, because now post-COVID, it's kind of, we're re-emerging, which I'm sure we're going to do a bunch of episodes in the coming seasons around sort of the impact, because we're only just gathering data and understanding this like post-COVID world that we're in.
Yes.
So what have you been doing for your kind of management of your busyness? Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll say you just cued something in my brain when you said the post-COVID thing. I do think a big piece of the busyness that I'm experiencing, and I do wonder if other people have this too, is due to post-COVID. It's like it's like an overcorrection, So I think that like as we're emerging, I think a lot of us are like, oh my gosh, like life is back and let me do all the things. So I guess what I'm trying to do is frankly just kind of like roll with it. Like I am trying to watch like when I'm feeling, overextended and like have a day of like not doing anything or going to bed earlier or whatnot. But I also guess what I'd say is in my busyness, and this is newer for me. When I was younger, I didn't do this as much. The things that I'm busy with like do feel like, and this is a dorky word, I know, but like very nourishing to me, like they're very values aligned. So I feel more energized by them, where I think when I was younger, I would get sort of caught up in busyness, but they were things that would drain me. Like they were things I feel like they were in the shoulds category that I didn't really want to be doing. So I think that's actually, I'm just, it's coming together as I'm talking. Yeah. I guess that's what's happening, Nikki. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
I saw that happening.
Yeah. You saw the wheels turning in my brain. Yeah. I can.
And then you had your like aha moment.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I guess, that's what's happening. So that's how I'm
So in vivo, understanding why talk therapy can work. Because sometimes you have to say something out loud.
We do. Yeah. So anyway, so glad we recorded an episode today.
You're welcome. And to remind listeners, this is not therapy.
This is not, yes. Yeah. Correct. Yes. Yes.
Well, look, I'm happy we're back. It is so good to see you. And I know that just we're going to keep, we're almost at 20,000 downloads. And, we appreciate listeners that are out there, even though it's mostly just your mom and my mom. But anyway. But it's good to be back. And so I look forward to kind of this season 4 and for us getting some stuff out there.
This has been When East Meets West. I'm Dr. Pete Economou.
And I'm Dr. Nikki Rubin. Be present, be brave.
This has been When East Meets West. All material is based on opinion and educational training of Drs. Pete Economou and Nikki Rubin.
Content is for informational and educational purposes only.